The Manhattan Project: The Rights and Responsibilities of Scientists. The Manhattan Project was a secret project that developed the technology, ultimately discovering nuclear weapons. This is the story of the conflict that existed between the rights of scientists working on the project to freely explore our universe and their responsibilities to their country, society, and to their fellow men. Scientists have always had many academic freedoms, which allow them to freely exchange scientific information throughout the world. They held conventions to discuss experiments, theories, and findings, using their freedoms of research, inquiry, publication, and travel. Throughout history, scientists have advanced mankind through many inventions driven by this right, such as the printing press, the light bulb, and the computer, which have all made our world a better place. However, sometimes their research is used for political or religious purposes, or their research has other unintended consequences. For the scientists who worked on the Manhattan Project, the destruction left behind from their work and the world it has helped shape is still being debated today. In 1938, in Berlin, Germany, chemist Otto Hahn discovered that when a radioactive atom's neutrons shoot out against the uranium atom splits in half. He shared his results with fellow scientists Lise Meitner and Otto Fritsch from Sweden, and they agreed that if this was accurate, energy would be released. They shared this with Niels Bohr, a Danish physicist, who then traveled to America, where he attended a physics conference, where news of this finding began to spread. American scientists learned of this discovery and thought about the potential of the enormous energy that could be released and its practical application. Scientists started calling this remarkable discovery fission.
While these important findings were happening, Adolf Hitler was expanding his territory in Europe. When Germany invaded Poland, World War II began. The Americans became involved on December 7, 1941, when the Japanese attacked the U.S. military base at Pearl Harbor. The United States, Great Britain, and the Soviet Union led the Allied powers against the Axis powers of Germany, Japan, and Italy. Since fission was discovered in Berlin, American scientists were worried that Germany might already be building an atomic bomb. The scientists thought it was their responsibility to warn President Roosevelt of Germany attaining this weapon. Albert Einstein agreed to write a letter to the president warning him it was possible for uranium to undergo nuclear fission, which would release a great deal of energy that could produce an extremely powerful bomb. Roosevelt took this warning seriously and arranged a top-secret project, codenamed the Manhattan Project, in May 1942 to construct an atomic bomb, placing the U.S. Army in control under the lead of General Leslie Groves. Groves assigned Robert Oppenheimer, an American physics professor, as lead scientist of the project. They both decided that Los Alamos, New Mexico, was the perfect place to build and design the atomic bomb. On December 2nd, Enrico Fermi discovered that as the uranium atom splits in two, neutrons break free. The neutrons then collide with more uranium atoms, causing them to also fission, creating a chain reaction. Now scientists knew, if they created a fast enough chain reaction, they would be able to build an atomic bomb.
Groves created more secret locations around the country where they enriched uranium and plutonium, another element they learned that can also undergo nuclear fission. On April 12, 1945, Roosevelt passed away, and Vice President Harry Truman became the new president and in control over the use of the atomic bomb. Germany surrendered in May of 1945, ending the war in Europe. Scientists now thought that their work was done. They were relieved until they learned that they must continue because war was still raging with Japan and the Pacific. Both Oppenheimer and Groves agreed to test the atomic bomb on July 16, 1945, at the Trinity site near Los Alamos. According to author and historian Steve Shankin, Oppenheimer's first thoughts were, "It worked." Then the scientists realized that they had used something they loved, physics, to build the deadliest weapon in human history. They knew the world would never be the same. On August 6, 1945, President Truman decided to drop the uranium bomb on Hiroshima, and 3 days later, the plutonium bomb on Nagasaki. About 100,000 people died, and about 200,000 more people would die of wounds, burns, and radiation. Japan finally surrendered on August 15th. World War II was now over, and the world now possessed technology and a knowledge that could potentially destroy mankind.
The scientists on the project were some of the smartest and brightest people in the world, and they had just captured the power of the atom to such a destructive end. How did they feel? As citizens, as members of society, and morally? Were the conflicts and boundaries of the right to make the bomb impeded by their responsibilities to their country? Ultimately, did they have the right to discover science to such an end without regard to their responsibility to mankind and the destruction of the world? Whether the scientists were from the United States or other countries, they were working for one common cause: the responsibility to defend and protect the free world. After all, it was assumed that Germans were working on a similar project, and their leader, Hitler, would have no qualms using it. Another responsibility that the scientists had was the global society. There were obviously many negative effects from the utilization of the atomic bomb. For example, the massive devastation from the use of the bomb increased reconstruction costs to Japanese society. Additionally, the dropping of the bomb led to the Cold War, an accelerated arms race lasting many decades, and brought world society to the brink of mass destruction. With these, there were several other negative effects. However, positive ones resulted from the bomb's research as well. The exploration of the atom, although used at first for military purposes, would eventually be used as an alternative energy source for nuclear power plants, advancement in cancer research, and powering future space missions.
The last and most controversial was the moral responsibility of building the bomb, which was ultimately dropped against Japan, killing hundreds of thousands of people, and which led into the Cold War. The Frank Report, written in June 1945 by various scientists who developed the bomb, expressed the opinion that the bomb should not be used against Japan. It spoke of other countries building their own atomic weapons of mass destruction as knowledge of this technology spread. Similar to the objection that most people had to the use of poisonous gas, the scientists who signed the Frank Report agreed that the use of the bomb on Japan would also be morally unacceptable. In addition, Leo Szilard circulated a petition which was ultimately signed by 69 other scientists, which discouraged the use of the atomic bomb by the government. However, on the other side, most scientists at Los Alamos did not sign the petition because Oppenheimer, the lead scientist, was advocating that the scientists did not have the authority to persuade politics, and it was not their responsibility to influence policy. Ultimately, the decision was not made by the scientists, but by the U.S. government to drop the atomic bomb. Many people, including World War II veteran Charlie Bartholomew, believed the decision to drop the bomb was to end the war quickly and avoid a full invasion of Japan, reducing the number of both U.S. and Japanese casualties. Many scientists on the project concurred.
The reason I got into the Manhattan Project in the first place, of course, it was a war project. The bomb was very important, and I feel no apologies for working on the bomb. I think the bomb saved lives.
Initially, the scientists were eager to join the project for their civic responsibilities to save the world from Hitler's domination. However, when they started building the atomic bomb and learned of the possible destruction it is capable of, many scientists started thinking of the moral responsibility of building this destructive weapon and the nuclear arms race that would occur after the war, making the world an even more dangerous place. While Oppenheimer was initially pure research, later during the Cold War, he realized additional advanced research was building larger and more powerful weapons of mass destruction, and he changed his own principle. Because of this moral responsibility, the scientists became more involved in politics after the war, advocating an international organization to control the atom and prevent future wars. Because of their involvement in government projects after the Manhattan Project, some of their rights have been diminished. The government can now restrict their freedoms of research, inquiry, publication, and travel if working on secret projects just like they did on the Manhattan Project. The decision to work on the Manhattan Project, which led to the use of the atomic bomb, was a complex issue that was influenced by the civic, social, and moral responsibilities of the scientists. The legacy of the Manhattan Project and the contrast between these responsibilities and the right to freely explore our physical universe are still being felt today. Almost 70 years later, it is difficult and impossible for modern-day scientists with an even deeper understanding of our universe to not consider these responsibilities and the implications of their work to our world.